and welcome. I am Lucinda Curran, your host for the Environmental Sensitivities Symposium, a world first event. And today I have the pleasure of introducing you to John Coleman. So John, how are you?
I'm really fantastic, thanks Lucinda.
What is the work that you do?
I'm a naturopath dealing primarily with people diagnosed with chronic illness like Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, motor neurone disease, chronic Lyme disease, and other chronic infections.
And what is it that led you to do this sort of work?
Well, serendipity or guidance, whatever you'd like to call it. I developed Parkinson's disease, which was very advanced by 1995, and I was not very happy with the traditional approach and the prognosis of continuing degeneration. So I went on a journey of discovery and found ways to recover by the middle of 1998. And then I graduated as a naturopath, and guess what? The first patient who walked into my clinic had Parkinson's disease and wanted help. And that was a bit frightening for me because I knew I'd recovered, but I wasn't sure how at that stage. And then the second person that walked in had Parkinson's disease, so I started to think that maybe this is what I was supposed to do. Over the years, many more people with Parkinson's and MS came to see me, and we went on an adventure together. And then, of course, I met my second wife, Nicole, in 2006, and she became ill, and we eventually worked out that she wasn't actually allergic to me, and that she, in fact, had chronic Lyme disease. And we've been on a journey of discovery in treating that, and now I see hundreds of people with chronic Lyme disease as well as the other disorders I've spoken about.
And so what is it, other than obviously your wife, that makes you so passionate about working predominantly with Lyme disease and its co-infections?
Primarily, I think because these people are in great need. There are very, very few people in Australia prepared to even recognise the existence of Lyme disease and its co-infections, and even fewer who will treat the disorder. So I'm in a position where I can help. I have some brilliant resources that are both available here in Australia and some that I import from overseas. And so I can, so I do it. The other thing that I think is spurring me on, despite my increasing age, is that other naturopaths are becoming interested and they come to me for mentoring. And so I'm able to help them help their patients, and so spread that assistance much more widely than just myself working alone. It will come to an end. I'm in my 70s, and so my focus at the moment is developing skills among younger naturopaths and doctors where possible, so that they can go on and help people with these chronic infections after I eventually perhaps retire.
I can just imagine how rewarding it would be to find other people who are interested, who, you know, you can share your expertise and your experience with them to help them make a difference.
Yeah, it is good, and it's taken a long time to reach this stage. But, it's great to find them and to be in a position where I can be a mentor, bit of a father figure, whatever, and launch them onto their career that's really helping people.
And so I've got a nice question here for you. Do sensitivities create disease, or does disease create sensitivity?
Yeah, so chicken or egg? I believe it's both. So undoubtedly, people who develop chronic disorders, whether they're infectious or whether they are degenerative or autoimmune disorders, are people who already have dysregulated immune systems. Now, that implies that their gut function is downregulated, there is cell dehydration, and therefore they have become more sensitive to environmental toxins. So that is pre-illness, or at least pre-recognizable illness. However, many forms of disease, particularly chronic inflammatory infections, increase sensitivity, and that might include environmental sensitivity, food sensitivities, or hyperacusis, photophobia, these sorts of sensitivities. So it's very much the chicken lays the egg, but the egg forms the chicken type of thing.
I understand. So why is it that, given that you're talking that you will be retiring eventually, that, you're just so passionate to keep going now with it?
Because I think I'm almost dragged along by the need I see, but also, that sounds a bit like a martyr, I'm also excited about the research I can do and learning new skills. If we go back to time, I really started discovering how to work with chronic neurodegenerative and autoimmune disorders only in 1998, and so I'm still learning. And with the chronic Lyme disease, etc., I only really started working with this in 2010, 2011. So I've got a lot of learning to do, and I do like learning. So this is exciting for me. What I really aim to do when I talk about retiring is to do less in clinical practice and perhaps more in reading, researching, writing, and mentoring.
What a wonderful goal. And also, I love that it's not like the proper retiring. You're still going to be working, but in a different way, doing this amazing stuff.
Yeah, and perhaps having a bit more sleep and a little more fun.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Now, just a very quick question. You said that Lyme disease is pretty much not recognised here in Australia, but we've got people from all over the world who are joining us. So which other countries is it recognised in, and perhaps which ones is it not recognised in yet?
Well, there is contention in many parts of the world. However, we know that borreliosis, Lyme disease is more properly called borreliosis, and I'll explain that in my little talk. So borreliosis has been recognised in Europe at least since 1905, and many rural workers are regularly checked for tick bites and for infections and treated appropriately when it's still an acute infection. In the United States of America, even though it was researched and discovered in 1972 or 75, there's still some contention. The biggest part of the contention is most people will recognise that there may be an infection from a bite, whether it's a tick bite or a spider bite or something. The contention is there a chronic form of this infection? So can it continue over a very long period of time and create symptoms that look like other chronic disorders? In Australia, there's some sort of arrogant contention that when people arrive at border control, bacteria jump out of them and rush back to the country of origin because they're afraid of our customs officers or something. However, the chief medical officer Professor Chris Bagley, has said that Lyme disease or borreliosis must be one of the differential diagnoses investigated when ill people have been to a known endemic area of borreliosis. So that would include all of North America, all of Europe, United Kingdom, and the more tropical countries like Africa, Asia. That instruction is largely ignored by medical practitioners in Australia who cling to an old theory that, quote-unquote, Lyme disease does not exist in Australia. This is changing very slowly, and the Chief Medical Officer still has an advisory committee and is still working on the challenge of identifying whether or not there's an indigenous Australian species of Borrelia and or the other co-infections.
It's an incredible history, and I know you'll be sharing more about it in the Environmental Sensitivity Symposium, and we're looking forward to that. So John Coleman will be a speaker at the Environmental Sensitivity Symposium, and you can find out more at environmentalsensitivitiessymposium.com.